Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Shupla. I'm the Education and Public Engagement Manager at the Lunar and Planetary Institute.
Hi, I'm Ana Lisa Perez Gomez. I work at the Laredo Public Library as a branch manager.
Hi, my name is Zach Steer. I am Head of Children's Services at Erickson Public Library in Boone, Iowa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sherelle Webb. I am currently the Public Engagement Lead at the Lunar and Planetary Institute. So happy to be with you this morning.
I'd like us to discuss together strategies for cultural and racial inclusion in Earth and Space Science STEAM programs. And we should acknowledge upfront that this is a really big topic. This is huge. We won't be able to discuss everything in a single video, but we'd like to make a start.
The first priority all the time in our mission is to make it a welcoming place for everyone, regardless of where you're at and what you understand.
It was important for us to not make any assumptions, right? Just because I am Hispanic, I have a Hispanic background, doesn't mean I understand what the community is going through. And so it was important to do my research, to know, we have several branches that serve the Laredo, Texas area. So it was important to know what each of these communities, these smaller neighborhood communities, what their statistical background, their demographic background is like.
As we were developing programs, that they could see the purpose their purpose in what we were doing. That it wasn't necessarily just a program where we're gathering supplies or getting speakers, that we wanted them involved in the planning process as well.
So it was important that once they arrived or they were in the library, if they arrived for a program or if they arrived, they visited us for a different service, that I got to know them. And to me, it was an experience where I really did have to have more conversations, actual conversations. What I started to understand, especially for my community, was that we needed to be a little bit more open and informal about our programs. We had to kind of, not make judgments about, if we had rules about it's going to be this age or it's going to be a limited registration. Sometimes the whole family comes together, right? If mom's coming to drop off the kids, grandma's coming along. And so we realized very quickly that we had to make our programs more family friendly rather than just geared towards certain age groups.
We wanted to make sure that there was representation, that they could really see themselves within the marketing, that there are patrons that are coming that look like them or sound like them, and that they can connect and relate to.
One of the bases that I've found that works is that you pull in something that's familiar. Pulling something and utilizing things that are familiar, and also taking the time out to know, of course, we talk about marketing all the time, but in this aspect of it, knowing what your audience may value. Because with that value and an association, you can then have familiarity, which means that they will see it, recognize it, and respond. But if it's something that is unfamiliar, then it could be scary. So then they will then start pulling away, not because they're not interested, because it's just unfamiliar. So just thinking about those different scenarios that we pose, or like Annalisa said, not making assumptions, and kind of giving some of the background to build them up, so then they can feel like they're a part of the conversation, a part of the event, a part of what's going on, versus, you haven't reached this level yet.
Obviously, when we have an event, people are excited to be there, and they're coming through those doors and they're trying to find a space. But before we can have them sit, we want to make sure that we're there at the door, that we are welcoming them to the library, to their library, because that's really what it is, that they have a piece of this building.
Also being respectful to, if it is an all ages activity, being respectful to the parents and to the grandparents and all the, the aunts and the uncles coming in And listening to their stories, it may not be science related, but they might say, oh, this game, this reminds me of the video game I'm playing, and listening to their story and how they're connecting to it. Because we are looking for common ground sometimes when we are learning something new.
How somebody pronounces their name, because and for me, I'm speaking about me, sometimes I'm like, well, I should know how to say their name, I should know how to say that. And so I think what I always tell our staff and our volunteers is, if you don't know how to pronounce their name, just say, hey, how do you pronounce your name? And then say it out loud with them. And most of the time there is this saving grace, if you will, that if it doesn't come out correctly, that they know that you're trying and that you're taking that initiative.
Within the game, one of the things that I really like about it is that the questions aren't questions that that are you're right or you're wrong. They're questions that allow you to explore your ideas and to share those, and in different modalities, in different ways. So some of them you're talking, some of them you're pointing, or you're doing something. So those different modalities. That's one of the things I really like about the game. So you're sharing what you know with each other without it just turning into a trivia question where everybody is right or wrong.
Really important too that we learn the correct language, right? The correct way to speak to patrons who are learning something new. And in fact, as I was going through the NASA at My Library program, I was learning something new, right? So it was very authentic, the way I could empathize with them. You know, this is new to me too. And maybe this information on these cards, referring back to the game, well, let's see what this means. You know what? I'm not really sure what they're referring to. What is data analysis, right? What exactly is engineering? People throw around the STEM term, but what does it really mean to us? And let's investigate this together.
And really just kind of combing through all of the download files that are available, just to make sure that what is provided, like I said, has, either English, Spanish both, or if there are other languages available. And really to understand who your audience is, to see if maybe you need to make some modifications based upon who your patrons are that will be coming to this program.
I mean, the obvious one, it would be, yes, language. Language is important to have something there that, I mean, first of all, it's just a sign that you are acknowledging a population and welcoming them. But it's hard to have something in all languages, right? So you can try to provide something for maybe your most predominant group that will be coming, but you may not be prepared for everything. So that means just, having assistance there, actual people. Once again, I'm going to mention that it's a challenge to have enough people sometimes to assist, but you can also have, peer volunteers. And the important thing is, if you do make a mistake and you're not providing everything that you need to, is that you're learning from it, not just ignoring it. That's a big plus. There's no way we're going to learn everything. There's no way that any one activity is going to be 100% inclusive. So just recognizing that and then trying to do better next time.
To understand who your patrons are from them, and to really take that time. And I want to reiterate, I believe it was Annalise that said, know that even if we don't know everything, and be okay with that, but we're in this mode of learning ourselves, and to make sure that we are evaluating and continue to evaluate what we are providing, to make sure that it's as inclusive as it can be, and to know that that is an ongoing process.
To learn more about DEIA, scan the QR code on the screen or follow the link provided in the description.